भेद विभागिनी व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः. ओम शांति शांति शांति. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om Tat Sat. So I would be sharing the page and I'll put you in the context from where we have left. We will start from there. We are following, instead of doing the Ramakrishna generally, which is the practice, Vedanti circles, the Kalyana Piyusha gives a bit of analytical understanding and sticks to the Upanishads instead of delving too much into the Nyaya thing, which sort of is a different detour. So this one is, now we had done the verse number 29, if you remember, and the verse number 29 was, what was the question? There is Atma, what is the proof? That was the main question. And the great Buddhist would say, if you are trying to refuse everything, Satyatvam Badharahityam Jagadavadhi Kashakshinaha. Because Brahma Satya Jaganamithya. Whatever you see, Drishyatvad, because it's all visible like dreams. So this is not real. This is phenomenal real. This is phenomenal reality, not absolute reality. And that absolute reality cannot be negated by any other pramana or any other proof. But when you deny this whole world as mithya, yat vadhyam tan mithya, whatever can be denied, can be refuted, that cannot be absolutely true. We have done a lot of discussions on that, and I'm not revisiting it. Now, the Purva Paksha, or somebody will say, so you are denying everything, so you are basically subscribing to our point of view, which is that there is nothing, everything is Shunya. The Mula Madhyamika Karika and Shunyavada and all kinds of arguments. There, the Vedanti asks, okay, King Sakshika Bruhi, na to asakshika ishyate. If you are very tempted to argue that there is nothing, so the question that we have raised in the last class was, now give me the name of the person or who observes it. For any proposition to be validated, there has to be some kind of an observation. There has to be some observer. So you cannot have a reality without an observer to verify that to be real. There has to be some consciousness somewhere. And for you to even use the word there is nothing, you are using the word is. There is nothing. So in order to say there is nothing, you are there is something. Okay. Now, so far the Buddhist point of view is concerned, they have already clarified it later on among in the debates between the Vedantists and the Buddhists, that when we say there is nothing, we are not talking about absence of everything, because that is logically not sustainable. So they are saying swarupatah na vidyate. That means if you're looking at a cell phone, does the cell phone exist? Cell phone as such doesn't exist. There are different materials of putting together, you have a cell phone. There are different atoms, and you can go even to subatomic particle levels. Ultimately, you will bring in the string theory where you will say that circles of energy or something like that. So ultimately, just let me close the door. These kids are making a bit of noise. Give me 1 second. So the point the Buddhist is raising, and that's being refuted, not with any what do you call anger, hatred, or anything. Just tell me that there cannot be any reality without a Shakshi, somebody to verify. That's how we had done the 29. Now, this argument is being now expanded in the verse number 30th of the third chapter of Panchadashi. Now, if you are looking for a very easy to understand book, to my mind, the head of Ramakrishna Mission, who has already passed away in US, Swahananda, has translated it in English. And the PDF version, I'm sure, will be available online. If I have it, I'll share it in the group. Now, Bahadarahityam udaharati apaniteshu iti. Now, you go on refuting, not this, not this. Then, what you have is that once you refute everything to be real, what remains in the end, that will be truth. That is the way in which we are going to go. And it starts with the verse number 30. Apaniteshu murteshu hyamurtam sisyate viyat sakyeshu badhideshvante sishyate yattadevatat. Now, what is that Brahman is the question, right? That is what the Buddhist was asking. That is what any person who has any doubts regarding Brahman or that ultimate truth, you'd have that point, and that's being explained. Apaniteshu murteshu. There is murta and amurta. Murta is whatever is material, whatever can move, whatever is material. So if you refute the existence, all the things that exist, which are murta dravyas, you go on refuting and rejecting. Amurta, and ultimately what will remain in the end? Something which is not murta, that will remain. What is that? Space. Akasha. Sisyate viyata. This is the example. Okay, so there is an example. So you'll have a drishtanta, and drashtantika is the context in which we come to our subject matter. Sakyeshu baditeshu ante. All these sakya, anything, there is a saktam padam. Okay, sakyam artham. So there is this object. Okay, and we are referring to it. So if I am referring to this phone, now this word I'm using is to refer to this, and this is called sakya. This word is being used to refer to it, denotation. I'm denoting. Now, this sakya padartha, sakya padartheshu, baditeshu, when you go on refuting them, apaniteshu, sakya padartheshu, baditeshu, ante sisyate yat, that which remains in the end, among all that you refute as false, whatever remains, what remains? There is nothing existing. That's what you will say, right? But the Vedanti would say, Yat Tadeva Tat. That is that. What is that? Sakshi Vastu. Tat. That verily is the Brahman. Now, Brahman is here not being reduced to individual consciousness. We have discussed it earlier. The Western perspective is always to look at consciousness as a process associated with our brain. In Vedanta, consciousness is consciousness with a capital C. It's not about a phenomenal reality associated with the brain, but we are talking about that is the foundational reality on which everything else appears. Okay. Now, let's look at the commentary, and then we would also look at other arguments. Yatha grihadibhyo murteshu. Griha are the house and car and maybe playground and now aircraft and fighter jets. Go on refuting. These are not real. These are anitya. They are not permanent. Murteshu, murta dravyani parichinna parimana vastuni. What is murta? Which has a limited contour, shape and size. These are murta dravyas. Vastuni, Prithvi, Up, Teja, Vayavaha. These are the four. Okay, the fifth one is Akasha. Prithvi, Av. So Prithvi, Av, Tejo, Vayavaha. So this is Iteretara Dvanda Samasa. These are the four. Prithvi, Vayu, Teja is fire. So starting from below, it's earth material, then water, then fire, and then finally air. All these are murtadavyas. But you would say that how do you know that air has a limited shape and size? Yeah, everybody knows that we have this atmosphere, and they knew this that time. Air also was seen as having its own limits. Atmosphere had its own limits. They had known it when this text was written. They had known it. Panchadashi Kara, it's about say 600 years back, but they were aware of it. Prithivya Vayavaha. Teshu apaniteshu buddhya. How do you remove them? Can you physically remove air? Can you physically remove water? Can you physically remove earth from your consciousness? No, no. We are saying these are not real. We don't have any problem with their physical existence. We have a problem if you say that permanent reality is a car or a house. No, they appear and disappear. They are very anitya, ephemeral, transient. They are today, they'll not be there tomorrow. So, apaniteshu vidya nisariteshu. And how do you remove them? With your intellectual analysis. Buddhya nishariteshu satsu vyadeva sisyate. Satsu means all that are real. These are all real, temporary real. Akasa continues. Space is a very interesting concept, isn't it? Because space, of course, now modern physics has gone ahead with having different theories about it, but space normally, commonsensically, is nitya in a sense, you can say. So far Vedanta is concerned, akasa, tasmata akasha sambhutaha, from that Brahman, akasa was created. Even akasa has a beginning and an end. Because this cosmos, space is imagined only when you accept the existence of the cosmos, and the cosmos existed before. Will it exist before or after? If you are saying it has a before and after, or it has no after before, then it's different. Otherwise, it has a beginning the moment you think the cosmos is contracting or expanding, or it didn't exist earlier. Then what existed? Space wasn't there. If cosmos wasn't there, cosmic space wasn't there. Therefore, generally, we accept commonsensically that akasha, or the space or the sky, is permanent. So, vyad eva sisyate, that stays. Tatha eva pratyamaneshu. Now we are coming to our context of discussing about Atma. Example we have dealt with. Tatha eva pratyamaneshu sakyeshu. All the words we are using to denote or refer to certain objects that exist. Pratyamaneshu, they appear. Pratyamaneshu, sakyeshu, apasarana sadhyeshu, and it's possible to remove them as anitya through logic. And we have discussed that how to do it. Nothing is nitya. So, sadhyeshu, bastusu, badhiteshu, and they become badhita. Not this, not this. Neti, neti. Na iti, na iti. Okay. So neti neti shruti paryalochanena apaniteshu ante yat kinchit sanamatram shishyate. So you remove all this, not this, not this. There are a lot of beautiful stories. The best one is actually the Nirvana Staka, and you can see it with, you can Google and find the beautiful lyrics and the song itself. And also you can read the lyrics and the English translation and the song. I'm neither this body, nor I'm the mind, nor I'm the ego. Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. He says this. So Neti, not this from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Sa Esha Neti Neti Tada Tad Atma Eva. Whatever remains in the end is Sanamatram. Sat Matram. The thought becomes no because of Sandhi. Sat Matram, that isness. Sat Sakshi Rupam, that witness, that consciousness, that isness is consciousness. Tad Atma Eva, that is Atma. Sa Esa Neti Neti Iti Atma Agrihya Nahi Grihyate. Agrihya means cannot be Vishayatena Griha. You cannot know it the way we know an elephant and a horse and a dinosaur, or you watch a film. There's a difference between us and them. When you're talking about Atma, we are talking about the innermost core of us. And this innermost core is encompassing the whole universe. This is the cosmic space which is conscious. And therefore, that is Sanamatra, and that is Shakshi Rupa. That is Sa Esha. This much is he positively referring to Atma. Sa Atma Esha. How do you know it? Neti Neti Iti. You cannot directly refer to as this is Atma. He's just trying to introduce us for us to understand it. Sa is Atma, Neti Neti. That means what? Agrihya. Because we cannot refer to as this. Nahi Grihyate, you cannot know it. Now, the exact, if you look at the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Sarvadishaha Sarve Pranaha Sa Esha Neti Neti Atma Agrihya Nahi Grihyate Asiryo Nahi Siryate Asungo Nahi Satyate. It doesn't get tired, it doesn't become thinner, it doesn't lose its power, and it doesn't get attached. Nahi Satyate. It's not Asito na Badhyate Byathate. I know it doesn't feel any hurt or anything. Ah, na rishyati abhayam ve janaka. And then he's saying ve janaka prapto asiti ha uvacha Jagyavalka. This is a dialogue between Janaka, the Mithila king, and Jagyavalka. And Jagyavalka is explaining the nature of the self or Atman to Janaka. And there is a long dialogue. And Janaka is giving him a lot of gifts. And finally gives him 1,000 cows. And then he gives his own kingdom. He gives everything. Then Jagyavalka says, now be my servant and rule over this. I don't need anything. I just wanted to. He was trying to please his master, his spiritual master. Master took nothing. He walked away having advised him. And that's the most powerful section in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Saho vacha janako videho abhayam tva. Then he's saying, because he, in the end, he's saying that you are liberated if you realize that fundamental truth. And what is that fundamental truth? The moment we confuse materiality of anything with its truthness, its trueness, its nature, its swarupa, then we are in problem because whatever we see is transitory. It has no ultimate truth value. It may have use value, it doesn't have ultimate truth value. The ultimate truth value is only there in what is eternal, what is permanent, what is universal, and that is the self. Very difficult to imagine, especially in difficult times that we are passing through right now. There is a war, yeah, and then people are dying. Then we are talking about the ultimate self. And somebody might say, what about the bloodshed which is going on, the violence and everything? You can have moral concern, you can discuss it, you can act on it. If you have the power, you have the influence, you can do something about it. If you're an activist, you're an author, you can write things about it. But that will not make it permanently real. What is permanently real, knowledge of that alone gives you liberation. That doesn't deny the fact that you have to have moral, ethical concern. We need to love, we need to protect, we need to pray for people who are in trouble. But that would no way deny the fact that these things, everything we see, are ultimately deniable. What is undeniable is that ultimate truth, Atma. Now, there are a few interesting, I'll just try to quickly sort of look at a few sentences from other places, uh, if that's relevant. We can actually go to the next verse, that's not a problem, to the verse number 31. Now, you see, what is that Atma? You will reach there through Neti Neti. In the next verse, let's see what he's trying to. Pratyamaneshu sarvavastusu apaniteshu. Now, yeah, so let me check quickly that Ramakrishna Tika, the book is here. Is there anything that I'm missing out here? Hmm. Murteshu grihadigateshu ghatadishu apaniteshu gruhadibhyo nishariteshu sachu yatha apanitum asakyam. So you go on refuting that pure consciousness you cannot refute. Navha, and in example, Drishtanta, we are looking at the sky. Evam, स्वव्यतिरिक्तेषु मूर्तामूर्तेषु देह इंद्रियादेषु निराकर्तुम sakyeshu neti neti. Now, murta and amurta both you take. Whatever is materially confined, limited, restricted, has a few definitions about it. And amurta is the sky, all expands all over. Both, if you look at it, what restricts the possibility of there being nitya is the fact that they are material. They are not chit swarupa. They are not consciousness. These are all material entities that we are talking about. So, and your mind, for example, there are many things which are amurta, isn't it? Who are very subtle. They are not very material things. Yet they are jada. They are jada because they are accessible to us through our sense organs. They are not pure consciousness. We are being able to refer to our mind. My mind wasn't in shape. I was watching a very sad video. Just by accident I came in. So there was this American girl, I don't know where it was. Last year she shot her mother dead at the age of 13 and a half, 14. And then she has been given life imprisonment, which is very sad because they looked at the CCTV camera and all, and she was trying to kill her stepfather. Now, if you look at that particular story, it's very difficult that the mind can get clouded. And our condition, which we consider to be very healthy, which we consider to be very normal, balanced, is essentially a state of balanced, harmonious delusion from the standpoint of the ultimate reality. But this is what works for us. This is what looks sustainable. And we confuse that to be real, but it's not so. Therefore, he's saying, Nava eva avasishyate evam swavitirikteshu murtamurteshu. Swavitirikteshu means other than the self. Whatever is not self is non-self. All this, murta and amurta. Nirakartum sakyeshu neti neti. Brihadarnyak is 236. Iti shrutya nirakriteshu satsu ante avasane sarva nirakarana sakhitvena ya bodha avasishyate sa eva vadharayita atma ityartha. Beautifully mentioned. You refute everything, but remember one thing: we are being able to refute everything with our smart logic and all kinds of cognitive tools we have, intellectual tools we have, and we even reject our intellectual tools. What remains in the end? That little girl who killed her mother. I'm sure she understands my mind wasn't working. That was the argument. The defense lawyer said. So, mind also not conscious because we are referring to the mind as non-self, as other than you. So everything that we refer to, if we reject as non-self, what remains in the end? That bodha swarupa. That bodha swarupa is not awareness of anything. That is not knowledge of anything. It is jnana swarupa. It's not jnana of anything. It's not knowledge in that sense. It's chaitanya, that pure consciousness that remains in the end is verily atma. That's what the Ramakrishna Tika says. Now there is this question that we are going. Nanu pratyamanasya sarvasyapi nishedhe kinchid na avasi. The Buddhist expert will turn around and say, my dear friend, you are making an error of judgment. What is that? He's saying when you say neti neti, not this, not this, not this, not this, why it's said, mentioned twice, some people say in the commentary, not what is materially visible. Yeah. What are these? So Prithvi, Av, and Teja, accessible to your Gyanendriyas and all. But if you look at air and sky, these things are not easily visible to you through your eyes. They're too subtle. So both, neither this what's visible, not this which is not visible, invisible. If you go beyond reality which is visible and reality which is invisible, you will find that Chaitanya Swarupa or Bodha Swarupa, which is verily Atma. That is the argument here. ननु प्रतीयमानस्य सर्वस्यापि निषेधे किंचित न अवशिष्यते अतः कथम शिष्यते यत् तदेव तत्. He's saying, yeah, you're arguing in a very funny way. You're saying after having denied the existence of everything, what remains is Atma. Logically contradictory. Because after denying everything, actually nothing remains. Tadeva tat, that is Atma. How do you say this? Now this has to be explained. So pratyamaneshu sarveshu apaniteshu na kinchid api avasishyate ityata aha. Then he's saying, yeah, you are right. We are going to do ardhangikara. We are not fully refuting it. We are just turning around and explaining it in words which will be comprehensible by the student who is in doubt. Sarvavadhe nakin nakinchedya न किंचित तदेव तत् भाषा एवात्र भिद्यन्ते निर्बाधं तावदस्ति हि सर्ववादे न किंचित यत न किंचित तदेव तत्. Look at this whole thing. It might look logically not sustainable. So we have to actually look at the intended meaning which is being conveyed by this sentence. Sarvavadhe sati, when you deny um, deny the validity of all that you see and experience in life. Sarvavadhe sati, na kinchit, yan na kinchit tadeva tad. What do you mean by na kinchit? Neti neti, nothing stays back in the end. Yat, yan na kinchit. Yeah, so yan na kinchit ched, if you are arguing, nothing will stay in the end. Sarva vadesati, na kinchit avasishyate, if that's your argument, the teacher is saying, yan na kinchit tadevatat. What you are describing in words as nothing, I am referring to that only as Sakshi Chaitanya or the witness consciousness. You are saying nothing remains in the end. I'm saying, yeah, and that nothing remains in the end. That means you're refuting what is visible and what is invisible, but the consciousness remains. Because that Shakshi Chaitanya, that is the witness consciousness, which is saying nothing stays in the end. Who remains? The guy who is experiencing it. When you go deep and deep into meditation, you may be looking at any image, you may be thinking about any concept, you may be reflecting on any mantra, but after some time, when you graduate deeper and deeper into meditation, ultimately you just exist. In Sampragyata exist, you are aware you are meditating, then you have Nirudha Samadhi. You remember we discussed that at length while doing the Gudartha Dipika for the sixth chapter. You have this Savitarka, Nivitarka, Savichara, Nirvichara. And ultimately, when you are going there, you have the Dharma Megha Samadhi, yeah, Ritambara Pragya, all these stages, ultimately what remains? You attain complete Chitta Vritti Nirodha. But does it deny the existence of the subject which is meditating? That subject which is meditating in Sankhya is understood in a different way. In Vedanta, that witness subject, witness consciousness, that remains. That is what you are using na kinchit avasishyate to say that. I say, yeah, that is not a problem. That itself is that consciousness I'm referring to as Brahman. How so? How do you argue like this? You are saying nothing stays and then saying that is what is Atma. He's saying, please understand this. Bhasa evatra vidyante. There is only a difference of words. Whether you say the horse exists, the cat exists, X, Y, Z, there is a film going on and you're watching it. You're glued to the TV screen or the computer screen you're stuck in your living room. Everybody is asleep. You're watching a movie you love. So yeah, it's one of those Eastern European movies, very slow. Others are not interested. They go to sleep. You're watching it. And you're glued to it. And there are different characters. Okay? So if I'm forgetting that movie, if you watch it, very difficult movie to watch and enjoy. Andre Vaida, you remember that famous movie maker, where he's shooting a movie in which one character dies. It's a very difficult movie. Or if you watch Looking Glass at the Mirror by Tarkovsky, very difficult movies, very philosophical, very deep. Now, when you are completely glued to that, there are different characters, there are different dialogues. And you are saying this is meaningful, this is good, this is real. That really happens in my life, in our everyday lives. We relate to some statements. Some we do not relate. Then the movie comes to an end. What remains? The statement you said, this is real, that character stays on the film screen or the television screen? No, it goes. Those statements, characters you did not pay attention to or you disliked or hated, they stay on the screen? No. What remains? The film screen remains. Whether it's the television screen, or it's the wall, or it's a film screen on which you're projecting the movie, that foundation stays. Now let's come to our context. Similarly, he's saying, you are saying kinchit avasishyate or no kinchit avasishyate, it's only a fight over language. Because the game is not about a correspondence theory of truth, as it is there in philosophy. They have two theories. One is coherence theory, the other one is correspondence theory. Correspondence theory is when you say A is such that A has these qualities. Yeah, you have a theory about what is A, and that really exists, and there is a correspondence. So all that you see, physical sciences, everything, are mostly in line with this correspondence theory. So reality, as Aristotle said, is independent and autonomous of your consciousness or your ability to know. There is a reality, you are knowing about it. And if your understanding rightly corresponds with what is there, your theory is valid. Yeah. Coherence theory, where you cannot establish correspondence, theories about cosmology and stuff like that, where advanced theories they're giving, is there any correspondence? Can they verify? No experimentation is possible. There are a lot of things. They are only giving you certain mathematical models, like the string theory, which is undergoing a lot of changes in the way they explain it. Sometimes they accept, they reject, again they accept. Now, what happens there? They're looking at if there is any internal contradictions. And if you find any internal contradictions, you say no. So that is a coherent theory of truth. Now, what is the key thing here? The key thing here is saying that bhasa evatra vidyante nirvadham tavat astihi. Whether you say na kinchid avasishyate or kinchid avasishyate, you say there is nothing that remains in the end, or that is something remains in the end. It's a fight over words. I am not trying to establish any correspondence between this Atma Tattva and your statements. These are meaningless ultimately. This particular consciousness plays out everywhere. The statements, the realities, your consciousness, your mind, everything, these are playing out in this cosmic field of pure consciousness. And that is undeniable. What are the proof? Some smart Vedantist will say we are giving you logic and arguments in order to convince you. But the real proof lies in the insights that you have in the Upanishads. They are the real pointers to what is the truth. The ultimate truth cannot be proved through argumentation. That is their point of view. So sarvavade na kinchit ched yan kinchit tadeva tat bhasa evatra vidyante nirvadam tavat asti. Beautifully mentioned. Let's look at the commentary. He's saying sarvavade jagati pratyamananam sarvavastunam apasarena. Sarvavade, what does it mean? Badhita means you are denying, refuting their permanence. Jagati, in Jagat, pratyamananam, whatever appears is real, if you refute their ultimate existence, sarvavastunam apasarena, you remove one by one, not like a courier agency, but as a smart philosopher who is negating the ultimate eternality, universality of all the material entities you see, mithya. Yadvadhyam tanamithya. Whatever can be refuted is not real. So you're establishing their mithyatva. Nishchite, when you confirm that they are not real, they are mithya, like you look at a rope which looks like a snake, you put a torchlight and you confirm, no, it's a rope, it's not a snake. So the sarpa becomes badhita. So it becomes mithya. Nishchite sati. Then kinchid na avasishyate iti ucheta chet. If, as a smart Buddhist scholar or anyone else, you are trying to say that actually nothing stays in the end, kinchidapi na byad iti yat sarva abhabhava sarva bhava avabhasakam tadeva jnanatmakam tad brahma. Ultimately, if you refute even murta both, even akasha gets refuted. What remains in the end? What remains is that pure consciousness. What is that? Sarva abhava avabhasakam. Even abhava, you have to say that there is abhava. It is jnanatmaka. You know there is nothing. So you know there is nothing. That's how you are saying Sarvam Shunya. There is nothing. To be able to say that, you have to have intelligence, you have to have consciousness. That final reality is what we are referring to as Atma or Brahma or whatever. Jnanatmakam tat Brahma. That verily is Brahma. Atra Atma Vishay Bhasa Atma Bodhaka Savda Eva Vidyante. The arguments are about how you are trying to describe that ultimate reality. The ultimate reality is not affected. You are fighting over different narratives, different descriptions. Tad jnanam tu no, tad jnanam tu nirvadham. But that jnana swarupa, that shaki swarupa atma is nirvadham. Badha vidhuram. This atma cannot be denied, cannot be refuted. Tavad asti nityatvena prakasate. That is the Swayam Prakasa Atma. And I'll just pay a little attention if there is anything interesting for you in the Ramakrishna Tika. Na kincha avasited iti vadata tathapi prayoga siddhaye sarva abhava vishayam jnanam avashyam abhupeyatad. Now you see, he's saying even if you say there is nothing exists, there has to be some consciousness which is able to establish that. Ataha tadeva asmad asmadvihi mata atmaswarupinam Swarupam iti abhiprayana parharati. So he is now refuting, because that is what is our view of the Atma, na kinchid iti. Sabdena yat chaitanya muchyate, na kinchit. To be able to say this, you're presuming existence of consciousness, and that consciousness that you are referring to, tadeva tad Brahma ityartha. That consciousness, that Chaitanya is Brahma. No, no, na kinchit iti abhavavachakena na kinchit sabdena katham Chaitanya muchyate. Now the Buddhist will turn around and say na kinchit avasishyate is a na pratyaya, means it's a negative statement. There is nothing. Now, how are you doing a quantum jump from there is nothing to there is Brahman? Na kinchit avasishyate, that is his question. Badha sakshina avasyam abhyupayatvad. Because if there is a badha, there is a denial, there is a refutation. Who is doing the refutation? There has to be some consciousness to even validate that refutation. And that is verily Brahman. Tvad and avidhayaka savdeshu eva. There is a avidhayaka, there is a avidheya. Avidhana is a particular way of denoting anything. So this avidhayaka sabda means all the words you're using to describing a reality, to describe a reality, we can fight over it. This is not an appropriate word. This is not a good concept. We can fight over it. But the avidya doesn't get affected by it. So we can fight about different lakshanas or definitions or whatever philosophies that we are munching in a conversation. The Atma is not affected. The Atma remains a witness to all these conversations. Viprati, Vipratipattihi na avideye. There can be no fight, no argument, no doubt regarding what you are referring to. Iti, therefore, pariharati bhasa iti. Fight is over language. Atra badha sakshini pratyegatmani bhasa eva kinchit sakhi ityadi sabda eva vidyante. So in that witness of these refutations and deniability of this material reality in which we are trapped, we are witnessing it, we are experiencing it. Sometimes we feel happy, sometimes we feel sad, sometimes we are awake, sometimes we are asleep. Truth of the matter is, the substratum of all this is that pure consciousness, which is a witness to all that is happening, is a witness to our mind, our thoughts, the physical entities outside of us, and all these things that are changing, all these things that do not change. And that is Brahman. Okay. Atmana nirvadatvam srutyarudam karoti. Now he, having given a bit of logic, having given a bit of explanation, now he is going to the Upanishadic insights in the verse number 32. अतएव श्रुतिर्बाध्यम बाधित्वा शेषयत्यदः स एष नेति नेत्यात्मे त्यतद्व्यापृतिरूपतः. There is a very popular word in all Vedanta classes that you walk into anytime. How do you know the Atma? How do you know what is Brahman? Is it so easy? No, it's not very easy. So, how do you go there? And they will say one particular thing they will mention. You have to do what they mention, what they say is Atad Vyavrati. Tad is that. That is Atma. That is Brahman. How do you reach there? You have to do Atad Vyavrati by denying everything that is not Atma. Means by banishing all that is Anatma, you are now not referring to anything as this or that. The pure consciousness that you become or you realize you are, that remains in the end is verily Atma. And now he's trying to give you proof, because he says these logical proofs are for intellectual satisfaction, but the real ultimate proof comes from the Upanishads. And therefore, in the verse number 32, he's giving it. यतो निर्बाधः तावत् अस्ति आत्मा अत एव स एष. यत निर्बाधः, because this atma is nirbadha, cannot be denied. Tavad asti atma, therefore atma exists. Ata eva sa esha, therefore this is atma neti neti. How do you reach there? By denying everything else. Ukta ritva abadhyataya, because that you cannot refute. You can refute everything, you cannot refute the consciousness, which enables you to refute everything. Vidyamano ayam atma iti etad. And therefore, this is that finally atma. How do you reach there? Iti etad vyavriti rupa rupatah anatma vastuna. Etad, this and that. Whatever you refer to as this or that is anitya. They are not desakala vastu paricheda shunya. They are all anitya. So you refute them. So whatever is this or that, you go beyond it. What remains is that pure consciousness. It's a tricky intellectual exercise. It becomes easier when we look at the conversations in the Upanishads, where one wise guy is advising the other one regarding the Atma. These stories or akhyayikas are given only to make it easier for to understand, which is otherwise very obstruse. Therefore, he's trying to say, etad vyabrati rupatah. So, you have to refute anything which has etad rupata, thisness has to be refused, because it is anatma. Yeah, it is anatma. Atma is that I-ness, asmad pratyaya, ahang pratyaya, that I-ness. Therefore, anything which is not you, which is not I, that means what is not Sakhi Chaitanya, has to be refuted as anatma. Vastunah vyavriti. What is vyavriti? Nirakaranam. Sadeva rupam dwaram tasmad vachyam. Tasmad vadhyam. Because the moment tadeva rupam dwaram tasmad vadhyam. Because you are saying etad, this and that. Because it's like that, it can be refuted. It's anatma. Yad tat nirakarana yogyam. Whatever can be refuted. Paridrishyamanam, whatever is visible to your sense organs, vastu jatam, tat samastam, whatever you can see, you can hear, you can feel, you can taste, all these are impermanent. Baditva anatmanaha apasarya, when you refute all the anatmas, ask them to leave the room. So let's imagine that there is a song competition and you have these American Idol, Indian Idol. How do they how do they happen? So you will have thousands in India, of course. I do not know how it happens there. So boys and girls in thousands, they will have a camp, and all these people will go there. And one who had gone there, who told me the story, what happens is they'll ask you to sing, but they will hardly permit you more than 10 seconds. So you start the sentence, they'll stop. He said, okay, thank you. Either they will say, go to the room number one, or they will say, go out. So, okay, you go to room number one. Otherwise, you will just sit there, which means it's over for you. You said, okay, you go outside. Go to room number one, he's called. They don't do anything. First round. Second round, they will listen a little more. Third round, so this is a process of selection or elimination. They're actually eliminating. When they have eliminated everyone, there is one guy who remains finally, who becomes that idol, Indian Idol or whatever. Who is the idol here in Vedanta? You actually eliminate everything else. What remains is that eliminator, that consciousness, the witness, and that itself, paridrishyamanam vastu jatam, tatta samastam vaditva atmanah apasarya adaha anivaryam atma vastu shrutihi. So then they are referring, what is that particular thing that is referred to as adaha? Neti neti, esha shrutihi, esha atma, sa esha atma, neti neti iti. Sesayati avasesayati. Finally, that remains in the sa esha neti neti iti, Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Okay. न हि एतस्माद् ब्रह्मणः व्यतिरिक्तम् अस्ति न पुनः स्वयमेव न अस्ति इति अनात्मतया सर्वप्रपञ्चे निवारिते सत्यनिवार्तत्वेन atma eva avasishyate iti bhavah. So what he's saying, he's concluding the whole description and explanation here. Nahi etasmad brahmanah. So you see, there is this witness consciousness. You start eliminating and refuting everything else. What remains in the end? That's that pure witness consciousness. Can you remove it? You are removing everything. You cannot remove the remover, that ultimate thing. Yeah, in everyday life, you can fire that guy from your company. That's different. But when you are eliminating, you are not doing any physical injustice to anyone. You are just intellectually distinguishing and discarding your attachment to many things. And you are going deeper and deeper in your consciousness through a proper Vedantic analysis. Yeah. So you are doing that drik drishya viveka. Drishya vastu, drishya jata, drishya varga, all that is visible, they are anatma. You refute them. What remains is drik chaitanya, the witness consciousness. There is nothing other than this. Number one. Number two, you cannot, that consciousness which is refuting everything else cannot say, I don't exist. We have already discussed that. That is self contradictory. Juha me nasti, I don't have a tongue. How do you speak? The moment you are refuting everything, you exist. So that pure consciousness remains. So, iti anena atmataya sarva prapanche nivarite. When remains in the end, right? That particular thing remains in the end, and that is what is the Atma. Okay, that is what he's trying to say. Now, let me quickly look at if there is anything interesting in the other texts. Yeah. So, this particular verse number 32 that we did is actually a comprehensive refutation of the Sunyavadis. Okay, because they have that Atma Virodham, because they have this particular argument that against the existence of the Atma, because they are Anatmavadis. Therefore, he's saying, Yat Kinchit Brahma Asat iti Veda. You know, if already you have discussed it, Asat Brahma iti Chet Veda, then you will get destroyed. Why? Because if it becomes Asat, the consciousness becomes Asat and non existence. How do you exist? If you know it exists, then the foundation is laid. Then whatever you say, the premise is not refuted. If you refute the very premise of our existence, of our consciousness, all that we are talking, then we don't exist also. That is really. So you, if you say that nothing exists, then Brahma is asat, then tasya gyantritvam eva na syad. Yata asataha gyantritva anupapatti. If you refute everything, even that Brahman is consciousness, Brahman is knowledge, that also cannot be established. Okay? So again and again, even Vedanta Siddhanta Muktavali, Tattva Pradipika, or the Advaita Siddhi of Madhusudana Saraswati, the great scholar from, I think that is near to where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born. All these scholars have one thing. So what is it? So Atma may not be Vedya. Vedya means knowable. In what sense? Vishayatvena, as an object of knowledge. Atma may not be. So avidyatve sati apurokshya vyavahara yogyatvam. That is swaprakashatvam. You know it exists, but you don't know exists as something that you are referring to as this. It's avedya. It's not knowable. Doesn't mean asat. What you don't know doesn't become non-existent. And this particular thing, there is a kartri karma virodha. Then the Vedanta is challenged. How do you know aham mam janami? I know myself. Yeah, the Vedanta explains. You know aham, then you are confusing that aham pratyaya with the body consciousness, the mind consciousness. You are talking about your social identity, your emotional identity. That you are referring to as object of your knowledge. The Atma is not object of knowledge. Okay, that is why I'm trying to say that tu स्वसत्वम, ठीक है, अवश्यम अभ्युपेयम आत्मा अस्ति इति स्वकरणीयम. You need to accept it. Okay, because even the Kathopanishad says asti ityeva upalabhya. Atma is there, you cannot doubt it. That is satyam jnanam anantam brahma, in the Taittiriya Upanishad. And even Brihadaranyaka, aham brahmasmi, I am verily the Brahman. Not as an ahankari purusha, you are saying aham brahmasmi. That aham pratyaya that you have, that Sakshi Chaitanya that you are referring to, the pratyeka atma is ultimately Brahman. Okay, therefore Atma is not Shunya and it's not Gya Vastu. Please remember these two things. Atma is neither empty or nothingness, nor it's an object of knowledge, human, mental, intellectual, philosophical knowledge. Neither of these. Then what? Swaprakasa Sattarupaha. It is self evident, that self luminosity, that is Atma. So it is not an object of your knowledge. We might do a lot of philosophical debates, will not reach there. And at the same time, it is also not Shunya. It's not nothing. You cannot say this. Okay. And if you look at Jagyavalka says, ah, यत्र एष एतस्मिन् लोके पुरुषः प्रीति किं नु ततः सत् न ततः सत् असद एव तत् असद एव सत् सत् असत्. And if there are asad eva brahma iti veda ched, veda asad eva brahma iti ched, veda swayam eva bhavet asad. If you know brahma is asad, you yourself will become asad, because you are denying the foundation, the primary premise on which everything else plays out in the sansara. Okay, and even if you go to Chandogya Upanishad, say Sadeva Swamya Idam Agra Asid Ekam Eva Advitiyam, all the time there is emphasis on the foundational existence. Now, in the Western philosophy, uh, in later days, mostly in European philosophers, you will find there is a word called anti-foundationalism. Foundational is saying that there is some positive reality about which we can have a conversation. And the other people saying there is no such foundational reality about which you can talk. So you have these post-structuralists, the French philosophers largely, and also you have some interesting German philosophers, you know, 20th century philosophers. So they would argue that to talk about reality, how do you talk about reality? To talk about reality, you are using language. Is this language free from prejudice and bias? Depends on what concepts and words you are using. So you are trapped in this language thing. Wittgenstein earlier in his philosophical investigations also mentioned about, the French people will say to have a language is to have a word. Vedanta also almost says the same thing, but purpose is different. We say language has a big role to play and the fight is about language. We say all that. But we also say that there is that witness consciousness, not denying its existence. Everything else is just phenomenal. So we are talking about two truths. Okay. And then there are different kinds of schools and different arguments, and therefore this becomes a little confusing. Now let's graduate to the next verse, and we'd like to do one more verse, the verse number 33. Badhyavadhe vastuni pradarshayati idamiti. Now this, what is Chaitanya, what is that pure consciousness, and how everything else can be denied, refuted, is explaining to us, holding our hands, the author, in a very nice way. Idam rupantu yad yavat tatyaktung sakyate khilam asokyo hanidam rupaha sa atma badhavarjitaha idam rupam tu yad yavat tyaktum sakyate. Whenever he's referring to the whole material cosmos, material reality, so to say, how he's trying to refer to everything else, he's saying, whenever you are trying to refer to anything, yad yavat. Yavat is that spread he's referring to, and yat, whatever you experience, A, B, C, and then the whole universe of your experience, of your sense perception, your logical derivations, whatever you are doing. Idam rupata, if there is idam rupata, you are making a statement, a truth proposition. A such that A has these qualities. A is equal to Y, A is X, or whatever description you have. He says, Yad tavat tyaktum sakyate, and you are able to refute it. Akhilam, everything in this whole world will be included in it. One thing you cannot refute, you cannot remove. What is that? Asakyo hi anidam rupaha. That Chaitanya is anidam Chaitanyam. Idam tvena navhati. It is not externally. It appears, it's evident, it's swaprakasha, it's self-evident, no proof required. Because it doesn't appear as an object of your knowledge, as an object of your perception. That anindam rupaha sa atma vadha varjitaha. That atma, that is what we are referring to as atma. So there are two words actually to be taken from the verse number 33 for our future discussions. Idam rupata, anidam rupata. Whatever has idam, thisness, is anitya. Remember this. Our conversation, morning to night, idam, this, that, all anitya. Anidam Chaitanyam is what is that? Anidam Rupa is your very. You don't refer to as this. Sometimes you say, look at this guy. You can say this. It's beautiful. Jiddu Krishnamurti used to say, this guy, yeah, or he, something like this. Some people refer to as Ram. Swami Ramatirtha used to refer to himself as Ram. He used to externalizing. Then that means he externalizing the whole body mind complex, and then he's remaining as a witness. That is the purpose. That's why you're saying. So let's look at these the explanation of it. Not very difficult. Idam rupam idamiti pratyakshena sannihitam dehadi yad yavad vidyate. Idam rupam. This is how is she to look at? Oh, she's fair, she's dusky, she's tall, she's thin, she's beautiful, she's not so beautiful. All that you are saying. Pratyakshena sannihidam. It's close to you. You are being able to see, and therefore you are saying this or that. Dehadi, what is this? In body, mind, war, news, whatever you see. Yad yavad vidyate, whatever exists around you, before you, vastu jatam, tad akhilam neti neti, hasta vikshepena iva buddhya tektum sakyate. Like some people are entering and you are doing this music competition, you say, no, no, you go out. Similarly, through your intellectual analysis, through vastu viveka, what is real and what is unreal, you reject everything is unreal. It's here, it will not be there. I remember there was a beautiful, I think in Reader's Digest or somewhere, I don't remember, 40 years back, I was a student, and there was this statement, even this will pass away. And I thought, this is a very good thing. So then I made 4, 5 faces. A girl is smiling, one girl is angry and sad and busy studying. And I wrote in the sentence, even this will pass away. And a lot of people say, what is the purpose of this? You said, no, that will give you equanimity. Because today, how much you scored in an examination, how many claps you got in a debate competition, how many runs you scored in a cricket match, even this will pass away. These are all idam rupa, not real. Yad yavat vidyate vastu jatam tad akhilam neti neti hasta vikshepana iva buddhya taktum satyate. You can refute all that. Yo anidam rupaha, whatever cannot be described as this, anidam rupaha, pratyakstvena idantaya anavagamyaha, pratyakstvena, because it's about you. Whom are you referring to as this? You're talking about your own consciousness. Because it is pratyak chaitanya, you cannot refer to as idam. Idam. Now avagamya. Avagamya is not knowable as an object of consciousness. The consciousness which knows everything else cannot be known as an object of consciousness. Little tricky? Think about it. The consciousness which knows and makes sense of this reality cannot be made sense of as an object of consciousness, right? So therefore he's saying pratyak rupaha, pratyak swarupaha, that atma, sa asakyo anivarya. You cannot do nivarana, you cannot refute its existence. What does it mean? Badha varjitaha. What was our foundational statement? Yan mithya, yad badhya tana mithya. Whatever can be refuted, whatever can be challenged is mithya, not real. The snake can be challenged by putting a torchlight. It appears as a rope. So whatever is badhya is mithya. Atma is not badhya.